Yes, thank you guys. All right. Yeah. All right. Wow. Full house. The cameras can't see the audience. Full house, packed, 10,000 seat stadium. Psychedelics are getting big. They really are. No, I'm glad to be here. I'm thrilled to be a part of this conference. And it's good to be here in the Bay Area. I don't know if my tone sounded fully convincing there. It's just, I spend most of my time in New York. Things are very different here. Like, it feels to me like the energy here is a lot of people using the word energy. Is that a fair characterization? I don't know, maybe I've spent too much time in New York, but like personally, I need a little less namaste and a little more go fuck yourself, just to know where I stand. So, but I've actually invented a fun San Francisco drinking game. You guys might enjoy this, which is every time you hear someone say the word manifest, you do a kombucha shot. So, basically, if anyone is upset or offended by anything I say up here, remember, you manifested me. This is a mirror. So, yeah. But there are things I prefer about San Francisco to New York. There are things, I much prefer taking mushrooms here to New York, because whenever I take mushrooms in New York, I tend to get paranoid, you know, like, what if I run into a cop? Whereas in the Bay Area, if you run into a cop on mushrooms, you can just be like, dude, I am really high on mushrooms right now. And the cop will be like, dude, me too. I can't arrest you because we're all one. And the real prison is the ego. Namaste. So, yeah, and I am thrilled to be here at this conference because psychedelics have been a huge part of my life, a huge part of my life. So my story is I had a very severe obsessive compulsive disorder for many, many years. I don't know if anyone has OCD, just raise your hand 17 times. It's, and people generally don't take OCD seriously. There's actually a cleaning service near where I live in New York called OCD Cleaners, which you wouldn't do that with any other mental illness, right? There's no bipolar cleaners out there, you know? We'll clean your apartment, then we'll trash it. So, but OCD is very serious. It's very serious. People with OCD 10 times as likely as the general population to commit suicide. About half of people with OCD are not helped by conventional medication. The half who are typically see only a moderate symptom reduction, and that was me. I was very, very sick for a long time, very debilitated, which is a humbling thing to admit, you know? And humbling in the correct sense of the word, not the way people use it on social media, like, oh, I'm so humbled to win this award. No, you're proud of the award. That's the opposite of humbled. You should be humbled by the fact that you don't know how to use that word properly. It's, but yeah, I tried everything. All sorts of therapies. I was on all sorts of medications: Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, Xanax, Effexor, Lamictal, Lexapro, and nothing helped me. And so finally, I turned to the place where I think most of us turn when we're really desperate. Of course, Google. And yeah, and I started Googling, and I found a study. At that point, the only study, relevant study, that showed that psilocybin had remarkable promise for treating OCD. Now, I had no experience with psychedelics, but I was very desperate, so I decided to try to cure myself. And I have a solo show about this called The Mushroom Cure. And yeah, whenever I tell people about the show, they often ask me, you know, did it work? And I'm like, buy tickets to the show. I mean, yeah, how hard is that? It's crazy though. Some of the excuses people come up with why they shouldn't have to pay for tickets. I was telling a woman about the show recently. She asked me if I was doing better. I told her to buy tickets, and this is what she said. So lame, this is what she said. She said, but I'm your mother. I'm just concerned about you. So, you know, I gave her a discount code because you have to meet people where they're at. So I'm not going to tell you if it worked. I will say, I once took a huge dose of mushrooms about 2 hours ago, and I'm joking, guys. It's bicycle day. I took a huge dose of LSD 2 hours ago. No, that would be irresponsible. I have a performative obligation up here. It was 20 minutes ago. So, I probably should do a little self-promotion. I am going to be doing the Mushroom Cure a week from Saturday in San Francisco at the Marsh Theater. Then I'm doing it in LA in May. And the show, it's gotten some nice attention. The New York Times said it finds a great deal of laughter from disabling pain. Michael Pollan called it brilliant, hilarious, and moving. My mom called it overpriced, even with 10% off. I don't get it. Oh, and I should say this, it won the overall excellence award at the New York Fringe Festival, which I was so humbled by, so humbled by. So So humble, guys, so humble. It's hard to be humble when you're on a stage 15 feet high, looming over an incredibly packed audience, but somehow I manage. That's how just humble I am. Anyway, yeah. The mushrooms have been hugely helpful for me. And not just mushrooms. Some latecomers, I hope you're tripping. I hope that's your excuse. Not just mushrooms. Psychedelics in general have been hugely helpful. And it's been amazing to see the change in the scene. Because I began working with psychedelics in 2007. And by the way, don't you love how you can say working with psychedelics? You can't do that with anything else, right? Like you can't be like, yeah, I've been doing a lot of work with cocaine recently. I was working all weekend, pulled an all-nighter last night. I should probably be catching up on some work right now. Do you want a line of work? But I began working with psychedelics in 2007. It was very different. When I told people in 2007 that I was using psychedelics to treat my obsessive compulsive disorder, they couldn't wrap their heads around it. They were like, wait, but psychedelics cause mental illness. Now when I tell people this, a third of people are like, oh, can you get me mushrooms? A third of people are like, I'm on mushrooms right now. And a third of people are like, oh, I'm a psychedelic guide. There are a lot of guides now. Can we say that? There are a lot of guides. It just feels like everyone I meet is like, oh, the medicine just called me to serve. I'm like, yeah, we're at a Starbucks. Could you please serve me my latte? Cream, none of this oat milk bullshit. I don't know if you guys saw the recent Department of Labor report, but 63% of Americans are now psychedelic guides. 63% of Americans. It is the leading profession in this country is psychedelic guiding. That's what pulled us out of the recession, psychedelic guides. It goes psychedelic guides, retail, construction, DJ. Those are the 4 pillars holding the American economy aloft right now. Okay. I have enough cards. Yeah, a lot of guides. And psychedelics are they've gotten huge, man. They've gotten huge. I mean, even like, there are just psychedelic conferences. There are so many psychedelic conferences right now. Rick Doblin of MAPS is speaking at 937 psychedelic conferences this year alone. People are like, how does he do it? I'll tell you, if you really dig into MAPS' financial statement, because they're public. So MAPS last year, they spent most of their money on research and advocacy, but they actually earmarked $15 million last year. You can see in the report, $15 million to clone Rick Doblin so he can speak at more conferences. There are now 2 Rick Doblins, or as I call them, Rick Dublin. So the scene is changing. The scene is changing rapidly. And actually, this is probably a good time for me to introduce my own conference. I'm doing a psychedelic conference about psychedelic conferences. It's called PsychCon. Tickets are $8,000 and we only accept Bitcoin. You can buy tickets at themushroomcure.com for PsychCon. And this is a great conference though, because this conference, it comes out of love. It comes from people who have had their own transformative experiences and want to propagate that, I'll say energy, we're in the Bay Area, want to propagate that energy more broadly. Not every conference is like that. There are a lot of conferences where it's just people who are like, well, should we invest in fossil fuels or mushrooms? Let's look at the spreadsheets. So it's good to be here. And yeah, a lot of people are looking to cash in. And honestly, I'm not going to put myself up on a pedestal. I'm looking to make a buck too. And yeah, I have a number of services I'm offering. One is psychedelic ad copywriting. If anyone wants to hire me for that, I'll give you a sample of my work so you can make an informed decision. Here's some ads I've been working on. Enlightenment. Wouldn't you like to see through the illusory duality of all existence, thereby losing your alienation and fear of death? Of course you would. But with your busy modern lifestyle, you don't have the time. 5-MeO-DMT. Enlightenment in 8 minutes or less. Here's a short one. Ever wonder what trees think about? Try mushrooms. And this one I think is really going to do well in the marketplace. Want to expand your consciousness but not your waistline? Try Diet Aya, the leading brand of diet ayahuasca. Diet Aya. All of the entities, none of the calories. Yeah, I'm also pitching a reality TV show to the networks called Ayahuasca Idol. I have high hopes for this because I think it gets around some of the problems with American Idol. So Ayahuasca Idol obviously is aspiring shamans, and yes, that is the plural of shaman. It's shamans, not shaman. Aspiring shamans trying out their best Icaros on a panel of judges. And one of the issues with American Idol is that judging, it's often criticized for being subjective. But with Ayahuasca Idol, I think an advantage we have is, like with Ayahuasca shamanism, there's almost an objective measure of success, which is how much is your audience purging, right? Like, vomit for shamans, it's kind of like laughter for comedians. We can tell how we're doing, so, yeah. And I wonder if, like, after a ceremony, if the shamans are hanging out in the shaman green room, and they're just like, they're bragging, they're like, man, you should have seen me. I transformed into a jaguar and a serpent. There wasn't an empty bucket in the Maloka. I fucking killed it. So Ayahuasca Idol. I am surprised how popular ayahuasca has gotten, because it doesn't sound appealing on paper at all, right? Like the actual attributes of ayahuasca, they sound like anti-drug propaganda, don't they? You know what I mean? They sound like the sort of lies they've told us about other drugs to make us not want to use them. The sort of things like, like MDMA puts holes in your brain. If you try LSD once, you'll think fish is amazing. These awful lies they've told us. I don't know if you guys saw the new study out of Hopkins. It actually takes 4 LSD trips to fully appreciate Trey's noodling. So, don't believe the propaganda. But ayahuasca is the only substance where people are like, for 6 hours I was staring into the devil's soul. I had projectile vomiting, explosive diarrhea. I thought I was going to die. It was the greatest night of my life. I'm actually going to up the dose again tonight. So, yeah, very popular. But of course, the reason ayahuasca has gotten so popular is it's very healing. They say that one night of ayahuasca is the equivalent of 10 years of psychotherapy, which means I've had 230 years of therapy. I feel like I should be doing a little bit better right now, quite frankly, but I don't know. I'm going to leave my my shaman a negative review on Yelp. No, all right, whatever. I wasn't going to say this. I'm a little embarrassed, but fuck it. We're an intimate crowd. It's only 7,000 people here. So I'm gonna come out of the closet about something, okay? And I hope you guys can hold space for me with this. So guys, I am. Wow, this is. I know I'm going to get judged, but whatever. I am currently between shamans, guys. I'm currently between shamans. It's a very vulnerable admission. I do not have a shaman right now. Everyone always acts like, oh, everyone has a shaman. At cocktail parties, everyone's talking about my shaman said this, my shaman did that, and I don't have a shaman. I feel very left out. Listen, I've had shamans in the past. I'm not some loser who can't get a shaman. I've worked with some great shamans. I worked with the winner of America's Next Top Shaman. I've had some really top-tier shamans. I don't have a shaman right now. And you know what? I am taking a stand to destigmatize not having a shaman in this community. I'm starting to thank you. Yes. I'm starting a foundation that's called No Shaman, No Shame, man. And it's a support group for people who are between shamans. It's not like I don't have a shaman, I'm just between shamans, okay? I don't know, I'm sure there's some shamans in the audience here. If there are any shamans, maybe you have a QR code I can scan or something to... yes, I could do eshaman.com, but that just feels like... I'm a traditional. There are shamans doing Zoom ceremonies now. I can't get on board with that. Like, call me old school, but I like my ceremonies on Skype. So, I'm a traditionalist. But yeah, I began working with ayahuasca in 2016 in Brooklyn, New York, or as I like to call it, Little Peru. There are a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies in Brooklyn. Sometimes you're in an ayahuasca ceremony, you have to knock on the wall because there's an ayahuasca ceremony next door. You're like, hey, we're trying to do a soul retrieval here. Can you keep your cleansing ceremony down? I don't know. The weird thing about doing ayahuasca in Brooklyn is after the ceremony, you just get in an Uber and go home. That feels... Though I will say my Uber drivers appreciated that, because when you just had the visceral realization that we're all one, you tend to tip very generously. So, but then I eventually went to the original Peru, went to the jungle. I drank ayahuasca 10 times in 16 nights. And when people hear that, they have one of two reactions. Some people are like, whoa, that's way too much, man. You're gonna fry your brain. Other people, probably this crowd, are like, well, that's not enough. You can't expect to improve with just 10 ceremonies. So it was, it was challenging at times. I had one ceremony where, my last ceremony, where basically I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was freaking out. I was screaming. I was writhing around. And you know, in traditional Amazonian ayahuasca shamanism, at least the Shipibo tradition, the healing modality is thought to be the songs. That's what shifts your energy. The ayahuasca is sort of just a way to facilitate that. And for the past 2 weeks at this retreat center, I was like, oh yeah, man, these songs are totally fixing me. But now that I knew I was dying, I really wanted some Western medicine. But there's no 911 in the jungle, and so I'm just like screaming. I was like, ah! And they're just, you know, they're like, ayahuasca, that's the only word I know for the songs. They were singing, I was screaming, they were singing, I was screaming. Finally, there was a break in the set list, a set change in the ayahuasca's greatest hits medley. And at that point, I realized I was going to shit my pants. And I wasn't happy about it, but I will say, if you're going to shit your pants, the best time is right before you die, because then it's not really your problem. So I told the facilitators I was going to shit my pants, and they were very concerned. They were far more concerned about the potential pants shitting than they were about my imminent demise, and this made me very angry. I started like yelling at them. I just got kind of, just very unpleasant. Finally, they got me to the bathroom. And I'm about to go in, and one of the facilitators says, do you want to leave the door unlocked in case you need help in there? I'm like, yes, of course I'm going to leave the door unlocked, because you're going to have to come in and retrieve my shitty corpse. What sort of question is that? And this guy looked at me for a moment, and then he said, you know, Adam, I know you're scared, I know you're suffering, but you're being very rude right now. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I went into the bathroom, and it just hit me. I was making a choice. I was making a choice to be rude like that. That choice came out of my own fear, but it was still a choice. And this, to me, is one of the fruits of the psychedelic experiences, that it shows us we have a choice. Where so often, I assume that the way I am, the way I'm acting, the way things are, is just the way things have to be. It's inevitable, immutable. But in reality, we have far more freedom than we realize. And this is part of what psychedelics, I think, can give to us. And I think part of it comes down to time, because time is a very mysterious thing. No one understands time. Physicists don't understand time at all. They don't. They understand gravity, they understand the speed of light, but they don't understand time, and they refuse to admit this, physicists. It's very arrogant. And it upsets me, it really does, to the point, I've actually been protesting in front of the Berkeley Physics Department. I was out there a few days ago leading a big protest. What do we want? The acknowledgement that time is an illusion. When do we want it? Now, exactly. It's now, because that is the secret. That is one of the secrets that we all know, but psychedelics make sort of unavoidably clear that it's always now. The universe is 13.7 billion years old, but this moment is the only moment that actually exists. And one of the fascinating findings from psychedelic research is that psychedelics seem to reduce the effects of memory on perception. So often, what we perceive is perceived through this gauze of the past. Psychedelics can, they don't always, but they can strip that away, so we're actually present in the moment, and in the moment, what we see is the truth that, yeah, we actually are manifesting this, not in any esoteric sense, but with our choices. Because in the final analysis, I personally believe reality is subjective, and if anyone thinks I'm wrong about that, you're right. It's choices, basically. Like, I thought psychedelics were going to cure my OCD, just take away the obsessions and compulsions, but they didn't. I still have obsessions sometimes. I still have compulsions. What they gave me, though, was freedom. The freedom to choose to engage with it in a different way. Instead of trying to control and manipulate and repress, I learned that I could surrender to these thoughts and emotions, allow them to be there, and that was truly the path for freedom. That's not always the path for freedom. Sometimes we have to control more, but the fact is we do have these choices that we don't recognize, and in making different choices and seeing our freedom in the present moment, we create a new reality. And Albert Hoffman realized this. It was 80 years ago today LSD first made itself unmistakably known to human beings. 80 years ago today, Albert Hoffman wrote in his journal after his first intentional LSD trip, he said, "Everything sparkled and glistened in a new light. The world was as if created anew." And that's what we're here for today. We're here to connect with each other, we're here to listen to amazing speakers, but ultimately we're here because I think all of us want to create a new world. And that starts from within, but ultimately that extends to everything. So, thank you for listening.